This is the Fox 5 News Block.
Luigi Mangione appearing at a Pennsylvania court for an extradition hearing to be sent back to New York City. The 26-year-old is accused of fatally shooting United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in Midtown last week. And former Abercrombie and Fitch CEO Mike Jeffries, along with two co-defendants, all appearing in a Long Island courthouse today where the trio faces sex trafficking charges. Good afternoon. I'm Arthur Chien. Welcome to the News Block. Those stories in a moment. But first, here's a live look outside right now. Audrey Pointe is here with more on the forecast, and it's moving in, the rain.
Yeah, it looks a little murky out there. We have lots of clouds in place, Arthur. There has been some patchy fog, too. And now we're getting reports of drizzle across parts of the region. It's 45 degrees in Central Park. We're at 46 at LaGuardia. Atlantic City, 54 degrees. They saw more in the way of sunshine earlier to help bump up their temperatures above the 50-degree mark. So clouds have been invading our skies and thickening up all day long, and now we're getting some patchy drizzle. But the main rain event has yet to impact the region. We still have a lot of moisture to come our way, and it's all located down to the south here. We have a cold front that will be pushing in our direction. First, there'll be one area of low pressure that will bring us the threat of showers tonight, and then a second low will develop along the front and pull up this moisture that will give us rounds of heavy rainfall as we go into tomorrow. So the moisture is headed in our direction. It'll be in place. The cold front will be the trigger mechanism tomorrow to produce heavy rain. There could also be a thunderstorm, and we'll have howling winds too, which will make for a windswept rain across the area for Wednesday. So for today, expect patchy drizzle. Clouds will thicken up and rain arrives later this evening. Tonight's lows will mostly be in the 50s and temperatures stay steady overnight. We're in store for a cold blast behind this front. I'll have the details on it coming up. Arthur? Thank
you so much, Audrey. Well, the 26-year-old man charged in last week's killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson appearing for an extradition hearing this time around in Pennsylvania today. Luigi Mangione spent his first night in jail and showed up back in court in that orange jumpsuit there. He was cuffed while fighting back against police. Manhattan prosecutors have obtained an arrest warrant as efforts to expedite his extradition from Pennsylvania to New York are ramping up now. Fox 5's Lisa Evers is live in Lower Manhattan with the latest on this. Hey, Lisa.
Hey, Arthur, we're here at Criminal Court 100 Center Street. Hopefully, prosecutors are hoping that very, very soon they will be able to charge and arraign 26-year-old Luigi Mangione on second-degree murder charges. Right now, he's in a courtroom in Pennsylvania. The hearing started at 1:30 about his extradition to bring him back to New York. In Pennsylvania, he's facing state charges there of weapons possession, fraudulent documents, and other felonies. Now, as he was being brought into the courtroom, he struggled with police. Take a look at this video that just came into our Fox 5 newsroom. CEO murder suspect Luigi Mangione body slammed the door and struggled with police, shouting, quote, completely unjust and an insult to the intelligence of the American people, end quote, as they were bringing him into a courtroom for the extradition hearing. He's facing multiple felony charges. Prosecutors here in New York want him to face a second-degree murder charge, and that's for starters because there would most likely be other charges related to the weapons, sources tell me. His 6 days on the run came to an end Monday morning in an Altoona McDonald's when an employee called police saying he believed the CEO murder suspect was in his restaurant and that he recognized him from the photos the NYPD circulated to get tips from the public, which came in huge volumes, but eventually investigators say helped tremendously. He's believed to be the gunman who shot and killed United Healthcare Group CEO Brian Thompson last Wednesday in Midtown Manhattan. Here's what NYPD Deputy Commissioner of Operations Kaz Daughtry had to say.
Here's a message to the criminal element that think that they want to commit a crime in New York City and cross state lines, county lines. The message is very clear. Police Commissioner Tish's police department will find you and bring you to justice.
Now, local police say that Mangione was found with a 9mm handgun and a silencer appeared to be made from a 3D printer believed to be a ghost gun. You can be sure there'll be a lot of testing on that in terms of the NYPD forensics department. But also we're learning a little bit more, Arthur, about his background. He's from a prominent family in Maryland, the Baltimore area. He went to private schools. He has a master's degree from the University of Pennsylvania. So a lot of questions about how how he got from that type of a background and education to where he is now, handcuffed in Pennsylvania, facing extradition back here to New York on a second-degree murder charge, which if he's charged with that and found guilty, could put him behind bars for the rest of his life. We're live here in Lower Manhattan. I'm Lisa Evers, Fox 5 News. Arthur, back to you.
All right, thank you so much, Lisa. Well, former Abercrombie and Fitch CEO Mike Jeffries was in a Long Island courtroom today where he and two other co-defendants are accused of sex trafficking. This was the first status conference in the case and the first time all three men appeared together. In October, Mike Jeffries, his romantic partner Matthew Smith, and their employee James Jacobson were charged with sex trafficking and international prostitution. Prosecutors say the fraud and coercion took place between 2008 all the way to 2015 in other countries, as well as in the Hamptons and in New York City. The defendants would allegedly lure vulnerable men into drug-laced sex parties and use their power to influence by promising careers in modeling for the clothing empires. So far, prosecutors have handed over 140 gigabytes of records and documents, noting more than a dozen victims and evidence that includes business, travel, and financial records. Jeffries and the other defendants say they are innocent. The men are out on bond with ankle monitors. Their next appearance will be in March. The judge says they don't necessarily have to appear in person for that. Now, for the latest on this developing story and other news, you can stay up to date on the Fox Local app on your phone. You'll be able to watch all our live newscasts and breaking news from anywhere you are. Just scan that QR code on the screen to download. Now, to developing international news right now, the United Nations is urging for calm as Syria faces new beginnings after the fall of the Bashar Assad empire. Fox's Alex Hogan has the latest.
The dust beginning to settle in Syria after the toppling of the decades-long Assad regime. The world watches closely as it waits for the country's next move. The United Nations envoy for Syria says the coalition of groups that drove out President Bashar al-Assad have been sending messages about national unity and inclusiveness. However, they note that HTS, the strongest of the coalition, is still designated as a terror group.
There is a real opportunity for change, but this opportunity needs to be grasped by the Syrians themselves.
Meanwhile, Israel has carried out a wave of heavy airstrikes across Syria, aiming to destroy as much military equipment and infrastructure as possible in hopes that it won't end up in the hands of extremists. Israel denies that its troops are advancing closer to Damascus, saying they've only taken control of the Golan Heights buffer zone. The UN warning against aggression by the international community.
Extremely important that we don't see any action from any international actor that destroys the possibility for this transformation in Syria to take place.
And the U.S. is sending its top hostage negotiator back to the region in hopes of locating American journalist and veteran Austin Tice, who disappeared 12 years ago at the checkpoint outside Damascus. The U.S. government believes he is alive.
We will not rest until he is returned home safely to his loved ones.
Syria has publicly denied holding Austin Tice. In Tel Aviv, Israel, Alex Hogan, Fox News.
In Poland tonight, the prime minister is saying negotiations over the war in Ukraine could start in the winter. The news comes as Poland prepares to take over the rotating presidency of the European Union on January 1st. Donald Tusk says he hopes to, quote, end effect of Poland and the EU's efforts will be peace in Ukraine. He offered neither details of the plan or a particular time frame. Now, the health of Christmas trees is an ongoing concern in the wake of the recent drought conditions that we've been seeing. And here is Fox 5's Jody Goldberg with what you need to know to keep your Yuletide tree in top-notch condition.
Timber. Let it fall. What do you look for in a Christmas tree?
Symmetrical, fullness.
It has to come to that point so that it holds the star the right way.
Something that's going to feel very Christmassy and homey in the house. Tall, of course, because I'm kind of tall.
And how soon can you buy one?
It's a keeper.
I think right after Thanksgiving, though, you can officially start planning the Christmas season and get the tree up.
Elwood Christmas Tree Farm started selling trees the day after Thanksgiving. And since then, owner Lee Itzler says he's been busy.
Both pre-cuts and regular.
His 22-acre farm draws people from Manhattan to Montauk, and unlike other tree farms that may have suffered from the late summer drought, Itzler says putting seedlings in pots several years before lining them in the field gives his tree stronger roots.
A tree that's 7, 8, 9 years old can tolerate a certain level of drought.
As for how long they'll last, Itzler says if you're cutting it fresh from the field, you shouldn't have to worry about making it to Christmas or even after.
Christmas trees, they won't show death until perhaps a month later.
One of the tricks, if you want to see if you're buying a healthy tree, you can gently pull on the branch to see if any needles come off. You could also scratch the bark to make sure it's still green.
All trees naturally drop up to 1/3 of the needles, and they always come from the inside. So if you have needles dropping on the outside, you have a problem.
But to avoid a problem, Itzler says make sure there's plenty of water. As for urban myths, what about sugar or Sprite?
The leaves transmit sugar down, and all they want from the roots is water and possibly nutrients.
Itzler says tips and tricks on TikTok and other social media platforms aren't always right. So what can you do?
You want to keep a tree away from a heat source. Keep the room as cool as possible, and for sure, at night, turn your lights off when you go to bed.
We found it! This one. Christmas tree secrets even Santa wouldn't tell. On Long Island, Jody Goldberg, Fox 5 News.
With our green thumb. Okay, from the bench to Broadway, U.S. Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson will be making her Broadway debut this weekend. The ensemble role has been created for a one-night-only appearance in And Juliet. In her memoir, Jackson wrote about her love of theater. Her special walk-on role will happen during the Saturday's 8 p.m. performance of that show. Let's take a final look outside. Audrey said it was getting gray, and it is now getting white, huh?
Sure is, Arthur. We have rain approaching the tri-state area. Right now, it's just patchy drizzle. Lots of clouds are in place, and we'll have some scattered showers later on this evening. But the bulk of the rain arrives overnight, and we'll see a wet Wednesday out ahead of us. There's a cold front that will be in our vicinity. Along that front, the rain will become really enhanced with the secondary low-pressure center that will develop. We could have some rumbles of thunder, too, by tomorrow afternoon, and we can see rounds of heavy rainfall will be here all day long and right into the evening. Behind the system, colder air starts to pull in from Canada, or will be pulled in from Canada. That will change over the rain to snow well north and west of the city. It's going to be mainly a rain event for most of us here, and everything kind of shifts offshore late tomorrow night. Now, behind the system, though, it turns much colder, and we will have temperatures take a big drop as we round out the week here. Rainfall amounts over 2 inches across parts of the region, and we now have wind advisories. We have a high wind watch in effect for Long Island, where wind gusts could be as high as 60 miles per hour as we go into tomorrow. Then we take a bottom drop here with our temperatures only in the 30s for Thursday and Friday, and we'll see some clouds coming in on Saturday as temperatures slowly climb back into the 40s by Sunday. Arthur?
All right, thanks so much, Audrey. That is your news block for now. I'm Arthur Chan. Thanks so much for joining us. Tune into the 5 o'clock news on Fox 5 and right here on Fox Local for all of the day's news as it develops. We'll see you back here tomorrow.